Have you ever noticed how easy it is to ruin a glass of water? You can have a gallon of the purest, cleanest water in the world, but all it takes is one tiny drop of ink to change the color of the whole thing. We treat people the exact same way. There is a quiet cruelty in how the world remembers you. It doesn't matter if you spent 30 years being kind, being patient, or being the person everyone could lean on. The world has a very short memory for your good days, but a permanent ink for your bad ones. We are reduced to a single moment, a sentence you said when you were tired, a mistake you made when you were scared, and suddenly that ink becomes your new name. Let's look at a man we'll call Daniel. Daniel wasn't a celebrity, he wasn't a villain, he was reliable. For 10 years, Daniel was the first one at the office and the last one to leave. At home, he was the dad who never missed a game, even when his back ached and his head throbbed. He was the friend who listened to everyone else's problems, but never shared his own. Why? Because Daniel learned early on that strong people don't complain. He thought that being a man meant being a shield. He let everyone pile their weight onto him, thinking his shoulders were made of steel. But here is the truth about steel. Even steel gets fatigued. Even steel has a point where it can't hold one more ounce. Daniel was carrying a mountain, but to the outside world, he just looked predictable. Then came the moment. It wasn't a big movie-style explosion, it was a Tuesday. Daniel was exhausted. He had stayed up all night with a sick child and went straight to a high-pressure meeting. Someone made a sarcastic comment, and for the first time in 10 years, Daniel snapped. He raised his voice, he said something sharp, he was unprofessional. In that 10-second window, Daniel's 10-year reputation vanished. The ink hit the water. By that afternoon, he wasn't reliable Daniel anymore. He was the guy with the temper. No one asked about the 10 years of wait. They only saw the 10 seconds of breaking. To understand why Daniel snapped, we have to look inside his head. Your brain is basically run by two different characters. First, there's the manager, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of you that is polite. It's the part that says, I should be patient, or I need to plan for next week. The manager uses a lot of energy. He needs sleep, food, and peace to do his job. Then there's the bodyguard, the amygdala. The bodyguard doesn't care about your job or being nice. He only cares about your survival. He is always looking for danger. When he gets scared, he reacts instantly. He doesn't think, he just fights, runs, or freezes. Here is the problem. The manager and the bodyguard share the same battery. For 10 years, Daniel's manager was working double shifts. He was holding back Daniel's frustration, pretending everything was okay and trying to be perfect. But every time Daniel stayed silent when he was hurt or stayed late when he was tired, he was draining that battery. By the morning of that meeting, Daniel's manager battery was at 1%. He was running on fumes. When that coworker made a mean comment, it was the final spark. The manager simply didn't have enough power left to stay calm. He fainted at his desk. When the manager passes out from exhaustion, the bodyguard takes over. This is what we call an amygdala hijack. The bodyguard saw that mean comment as a physical attack. He didn't see a coworker, he saw a predator. He tripped the fuse to protect Daniel. That's why Daniel yelled. It wasn't because his heart was bad, it's because his battery was dead. When we judge Daniel for that moment, we are judging a man whose safety switch just flipped. We see a moral failure, but science sees a biological emergency. Imagine you're at a track meet. You see two runners. One is wearing light gear and running on a perfect flat path. The other is wearing a heavy backpack and running through thick mud. If the second runner trips and falls, do you call them clumsy? Do you say they aren't a real athlete? Of course not. You'd be a fool to judge the runner without looking at the mud. Sociology is just a big word for the mud. It's looking at the world Daniel lived in. Daniel didn't just wake up and decide to be stressed. He was living in a system that was designed to use him up. Think about a pressure cooker. You put water inside, you lock the lid, and you turn up the heat. For a long time, nothing happens on the outside, but inside, the pressure is building to incredible levels. Eventually, that steam has to go somewhere. If it doesn't have a safety valve, the whole thing will explode. Daniel's life was a pressure cooker. The bottom layer being a job that told him he was replaceable if he wasn't perfect. The middle layer, a society that tells men they shouldn't show emotion or ask for help. And the top layer, a digital world where one mistake can be recorded and shared with millions. The heat was being turned up every single day. When Daniel snapped, that was just the steam finally escaping. We shouldn't be surprised that he whistled. We should be surprised that he held it in for 10 years. We love to say he had a choice. He could have reacted differently. But did he? When the walls are closing in and the air is running out, your choices disappear. Sociology teaches us that behavior is a reaction to the environment. If you put a good person in a bad system, the system wins almost every time. Before we judge Daniel's choice to yell, we have to look at the choices the world took away from him. Did he have a choice to rest? Did he have a choice to be honest about his struggle without losing his job? Most of the time, the answer is no. Imagine you have a massive tree in your yard. It's been there for 30 years, giving shade and beauty to everyone. But one summer, you notice a few brown, dead leaves on one branch. What do? Do you chop the whole tree down? Do you tell the neighbors the tree is evil? Of course not. You know those leaves are just a sign. They're a sign that something is wrong deeper down. Maybe the soil is dry or the roots are struggling. Faith teaches us that our actions are like those leaves. Daniel's snap was a brown leaf, but the world wanted to chop down his whole tree because of it. Faith asks us to stop looking at the leaf and start looking at the roots. We live in a world that loves dry justice. Dry justice says you broke a rule, so you must be punished. It's simple, it's cold, and it's fast. But faith introduces something much more powerful: mercy. Mercy doesn't mean we pretend the mistake didn't happen. Daniel did yell. He did hurt someone's feelings. But mercy says, I see what you did, but I also see who you are. Justice looks at the crime. Mercy looks at the pain that caused the crime. If we only have justice, we just have a world full of punished, lonely people. If we have mercy, we have a world where people can actually get better. Daniel needed to be told he was wrong, but he also needed a drink of water for his thirsty soul. Faith tells us that no human being is a finished product. We are all clay on a wheel. Sometimes the clay wobbles. Sometimes the potter has to start over on a certain section. The world wants to judge you based on how the clay looks right now, in your messiest moment. But faith reminds us that the potter isn't done with you yet. If you judge a book on page 42, you're missing the ending. Daniel was on a messy page, but his storyteller was still writing. We have to learn to give people the space to be unfinished. If I gave you one piece of a puzzle, just one, and it was a dark, messy blob of gray and brown, you'd probably think the whole picture was a disaster. You'd put it back in the box and walk away. But if you zoom out, you see that the dark piece is actually the shadow underneath a beautiful mountain. Without that shadow, the mountain wouldn't look real. It wouldn't have depth. Wisdom is the act of zooming out. When we look at Daniel's mistake, or when we look at our own failures, we are looking at one puzzle piece. We've forgotten that there are thousands of other pieces. The days we were kind, the nights we worked hard, the times we chose to keep going when we wanted to quit. So, how do we live a beautiful life in a world that wants to keep us stuck on our worst page? It starts with 3 simple shifts in how we think. First and foremost, ask, "What happened?" instead of, "What's wrong with you?" When someone snaps, don't just see the anger. Ask what the weight was that broke them. Secondly, stop the screenshot. In our digital world, we love to freeze people in their worst moments. Wisdom is the choice to let people change. It's the choice to believe that the person they were yesterday isn't the person they have to be today. And lastly, forgive the Daniel in you. Most of us are our own harshest judges. We carry our mistakes like stones in our pockets. Wisdom tells us to set the stones down. If you can't show mercy to yourself, you'll never truly know how to show it to anyone else. This is why Beautiful Life Hub exists. We aren't here to pretend that mistakes don't happen. We aren't here to say that actions don't have consequences. We are here to say that you are more than your worst moment. You are a long, layered, and complicated story. You are a work of art that is still being painted. And no story is honest when it's told from only one page. Daniel didn't let that Tuesday define him. He apologized, he rested, and he started his next page. And you can too. Before you judge a life, remember the weight. Before you label a soul, remember the roots. Here in Beautiful Life Hub, let's look at the whole book together. If you are feeling like Daniel today, stretched too thin and afraid of snapping, don't wait for the break. Reach out. Tell someone the manager in your brain is tired. And if you see someone else snapping, remember the backpack. Be the person who asks, "What happened?" instead of "What's wrong with you?" Remember, we are building a community that values the whole book, not just the headline. If you believe that human beings deserve the chance to write a new page, then you belong here. Click the subscribe button to join our journey. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the stories that matter. Share this video with someone who is currently carrying a heavy weight. It might be the mercy they need to hear today. Welcome home to Beautiful Life Hub, where we share with you real stories, true wisdom, balanced life. Stay, reflect, engage. A beautiful life begins with empathy.